Hello, everyone. Here we are once again. It's the rest day of the Tata Steel Masters 2022. And so, on this very day, we're going to discuss one of my games in 2016, the Subic International Open, against Grandmaster Boris Savchenko from Russia. All right, Savchenko is also a very strong player. He actually won over Magnus Carlsen in one of the World Blitz Championship last time. All right, let's go through the game. Savchenko was white. He went for d4. All right, there you have d4. Played knight of 6. Played bishop f4. Okay, we have the London system. Yeah, bishop and f4, London. e6. He played knight of 3, c5. He played e3, knight c6. Knight bd2, d5. He played c3, c takes d4, e takes d4. All right. Okay. After e takes d4, just a little bit of side story from here. This game was played in December 13, to be exact. I remember this very well. It was December 13th of 2016, and the night before this game, I was watching a game by Wesley Saw against Anish Giri. Okay, it was Anish Giri playing white in the London Chess Classic of 2016. It was okay the day before. It was the night before. It was December 12th. In that game, Wesley Saw played also knight h5, right? So, so I was like, Wesley Saw actually in that game was winning. I'll show you later. Yeah, bishop g5, f6, bishop into e3, bishop d6. In my game, Boris played bishop b5. Now let's look at the game by Giri and Wesley. In that game, Giri went for g3 to stop the infiltration of the knight on that f4 square. Wesley castled. Giri went for bishop d2 and now f5. And Giri had to play knight e5 because if let's say white castles, this is a big problem. This is already winning for black because now it breaks the king side pawn structure because the bishop is trapped. So you have to capture it with a pawn and now knight takes f4. And the king is now so exposed here after knight takes f4. So Giri went for, in this game, he went for knight e5. Wesley played f4, which is good. Giri went for takes on h5, takes on e3, f takes e3, and here Wesley played d takes e5. Okay, when I was watching the game, I was like, why did Wesley capture with a knight? I was expecting bishop takes e5. Yes, d takes e5, and then queen b6. Yes, you are attacking this and attacking this pawn on e3, right? And then if let's say Giri castles, bishop d7 first. Yep. If let's say white protects that pawn on e3, rook goes to f2. Yeah, rook into f2. Because if let's say you protect that bishop, there's rook takes d2. Takes on d2, queen takes b2 check, for example. King goes to d1, knight b4, threatening mate on c2. If you take the knight, then bishop a4 checkmate. Yeah, just one of the ideas in with bishop takes e5. And then again, Wesley played knight takes e5 here, and it continued bishop c5, rook f1, takes on e3, takes, queen f3, and later it petered out into a draw. Yeah. So what I was watching this was okay. I like Wesley's knight h5 ideas, and this is the sideline of the London system. So I was like, okay, if my opponent plays London tomorrow, and fortunately for me, actually Boris played the London. I was like, oh, I was ready. Six bishop e3, bishop d6. His improvement from the Gary's game is bishop b5. I'm not sure if he also watched that London Chess Classic the night before. So I castled. Okay, he castled as well. So a6. Okay, the main point of a6 is that if let's say he decides to come back, on e2, then I have knight f4. Now I can take one of the bishops. Yep. So he played bishop into a4, knight f4, bishop c2, g5. Okay, also this idea of g5 and then c4, rook f7 was played by Alireza Feruza against Aryan Tari just 2 years back. Yeah. Okay, so rook f7, he played a3, rook g7. The rook protects the king, at the same time is also an attacker to the g file. Yeah. Knight e1, you take c4. I want to isolate that pawn on d4 as well. Knight takes on c4, bishop c7. Of course, I have to keep that bishop to keep this pressure also on h2. Yeah. Since the knight moved back to e1. Because potentially, if it moves back the knight to f3, I also have g4. Yeah. So he went for bishop e4, knight d5, centralized knight, blockading the IQP on d4. He played rook c1, f5. That's it. Takes on d5. Okay, let's say he wants to keep the bishop with bishop b1, for example. I would go for b5. He plays knight d2. This bishop goes to b7, right? Because I cannot play f4 here yet. Okay, from here, f4 is not possible yet because okay, he will play bishop d2. Right. So bishop b7, now threatening f4. Yep. So it should be more or less winning for black. So you went for bishop takes d5, queen takes d5, pressure on the isolated pawn, the IQP. Queen to h5, I have to be careful. He has this cheapo on e8. Queen e8 is a checkmate. So bishop d7, developing the bishop, protecting e8, yeah, with the bishop and the rook. Captured g5, bishop e8 first, intermediate move on the queen. Okay, the main point of bishop e8 is that after with the take on d4, I get this square, right? Because the queen on h5 was actually taking that e2 square. So I have the double attack on the king and the rook coming up. Going for knight e3, attacking my queen. Okay, exchange. Takes, knight e2 first. F takes e4. You play rook c2, back to d4. You play rook c1, centralized bishop. Since he was actually going for bishop f6, double attack on my rook and a knight. Yeah, I still have a threat on g5. Earlier, I couldn't take that bishop because he's also attacking this bishop. Yeah, this overloaded rook, an overworked piece on g7. So knight e5, rook c1, bishop e5. He played h4, protecting the bishop. Bishop b5, hitting the rook, and he cannot go to g1 because I have knight e2. Two rooks are under attack. And so he plays this interesting rook c4 move, yeah. If he decides to play, let's say, knight into c4, I would just go back to c7, right? I still have that pin. And it's hard for him. Okay, if let's say he forked me on this one, I have knight b3. Takes on g7 is just too much material. King attacking there, bishop attacking here. Going for rook c4. Okay, rook g6 first. Yes. Because I want a space for my bishop, because if I take that rook, he will take with the knight, attacking my bishop. I don't have any good square for the bishop, and he can go bishop f6, yes. So he played bishop e7, now knight f5. It's an attack on the bishop, attacking the defender on e3. He loses a whole piece here, losing a whole piece. He took on e4, taking the b2 first. Right, still an attack on e3 and f1 and e7. So no need to rush, take the pawn first. He played knight c4, alright, knight takes e7, he cannot take my bishop, it's a free rook. So I am up a whole piece, this is already winning, yeah. Bishop takes e3. Again, if he takes my bishop, I also have a double attack. So he went for knight f4, okay, just rook h6, threatening h4. You play rook fe1, bishop b4, hitting the rook. Rook e3, knight f5, hitting the rook once again. Rook h3, protecting h4. Rook d8. Alright, open file. Threat on d1. Play knight e5. Rook d1 check. You play king h2, bishop d6. X-ray on the king. I also have two connected pass pawn. This is actually just too much. I was just waiting for him to resign. He played g3, rook d4, maybe not the best. Because I could have just captured the knight on e5, rook takes e5, bishop c6 threatening mate. On h1, if he plays knight to g2, knight e4, threatening knight f3. And it should be curtains. But anyways, whatever black does here is just winning anyways. It's too much material. Takes an e5, a bit late. King f7. I play rook c5, bishop c6. It would have been better if my rook was in d1. Okay, played h5, rook f6, and from here he resigned. Okay, this is just okay. The rook is just bad. Okay, I can maneuver my knight anywhere if I want to. Yeah, can play knight e7, whatever. Knight d6, knight e4. I can go rook b1 as well. Yeah, and knight e4. Okay, just too much material here, and he gave up. Yeah. Okay, it was a nice win against Savchenko. Okay, partly because I was mentally prepared, having seen that game by Wesley and Geary in the London Chess Classic the night before this game, and I was also fortunate that he played the London because I had this idea in mind before the game. All right, and I hope again you like our presentation for today. Watch out for our highlights in the next round of the Tata Steel Masters 20 and 22. Right? Thank you for supporting our channel, Charles Max Chess on Facebook and on YouTube. We are always here to give you more informative presentations in the days to come. This is Coach Oliver, signing off.